Welcome back to another edition of the Prepper Recon Podcast. Our mission is to bring you great interviews with preppers from around the world so you can be better informed and better prepared for everything from a hurricane to the end of the world as we know it. Whether your plan is to bug out or bug in, CampingSurvival.com has all of your preparedness needs, including fish antibiotics, long-term storage food, water filters, bug-out bags, and first aid kits. Use coupon code PrepperRecon for 5% off your entire order at CampingSurvival.com. Today's guest is Richard Wilkinson of PriorityMedicalTraining.com. Richard, thanks for coming on the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Sure. I am a paramedic. I still work on the ambulance. I've been in the field since 1997. Worked in Florida, worked in Alabama, worked offshore on drilling platforms in the Gulf of Mexico and in Colorado as well. I own my own EMT training school, and I also teach a lot, and I'm the director of education for an EMS ambulance service here in town.
All right, so we've got somebody that really knows their stuff on this topic. 'Cause I think this is an important topic that gets glossed over by a lot of preppers. A lot of folks, they focus on the beams and the bullets and even the bullion and even the bug out base, but they're lacking sometimes when it comes to the Band-Aids. So what woke you up to the need to prepare?
Well, I had a lot of friends and a lot of things that were getting into prepping and kind of wanting to learn more, and they used me as kind of that resource where they would say, hey, here's $100, can you make me a bag? Or, hey, I just bought this bag, will you look at it? And I would look at it and just see how just incomplete it was, or I'd ask them how much they paid, and I was like, oh my gosh, you paid this amount of money for something that we could have gone to a box store and bought, and it was nothing that was very good for their money. And I started getting into the field to make bags for friends, and noticing that, I can make a better bag for a better price and still have much higher quality equipment.
And do you think it's odd that a lot of folks spend thousands on guns and ammo, but those same people often won't spend $75 or $100 to put together a decent blowout kit? Do you think that there's some people out there that might be bulletproof? Is that possible?
Well, they may think they're bulletproof, but unfortunately we see the other side of that, and it's really just a glossed over version. I think that they just feel that due to their maybe luck, or maybe that they've been never hurt real bad in the past, or have had a close family member hurt real bad, that they just feel that, they can, they don't need it.
And can you tell us the top 10 things that everybody should put in their medical kit, and maybe, are those the things that you put in your kits at PriorityMedicalTraining.com?
Sure, that is exactly right. The 10 I'll give you, or actually I think there's 9 or 10, but are the same exact ones I do in mine. One is a good quality tourniquet that, again, that you know how to use, that you know how to, work it when you need it. A good hemostatic agent such as Celox or Quick Clot. A versatile bandage such as the Israeli bandage, over-the-counter medicines such as Tylenol, aspirin, Advil, Benadryl, Imodium, something called a SAM splint. If you don't know what that is, just think of a very simple device that is able to immobilize possible fractures or dislocations. Duct tape, obviously we all know there's 1,000 different ways. Well, in the medical world, there's 1,000 different things that duct tape can do for you. Emergency blankets such as a silver blanket. A lot of people kind of discount those as saying, it's just this thin piece of Mylar. What can it really do? But it really does do a lot. EMT shears, or some people know them as paramedic shears or nursing shears. They really can cut through a penny. Well, they'll cut through nylon and webbing and Kevlar just as well. And that's really important when you need to see the patient and see the wound. You got to be able to get to it. And last I always tell people is a very, maybe 1 or 2 of these is plenty in most kits, is a large dressing. I kind of had nicknamed it the I'm having a bad day bandage. This would be like a 10-inch by 30-inch bandage. They roll up real small, and it's one of those things that when you have a large wound like that, you just can't play around.
And you just mentioned the Israeli battle dressing. Now, for the folks that maybe have never heard of an IBD, can you just give us a brief description of what that is and how it works?
Sure. Israeli battle dressing, or sometimes just referred to as an Israeli. Again, they're from Israel. They're actually manufactured in Israel and made in Israel. The ones I buy are the same ones. They actually say made in Israel on the package. They have an ace wrap type stretchy bandage with an absorbent material in it, in addition to a lever bar and a clip at the end, where most of us are experienced with those ace wraps. They have the little metal clips that fall apart, or they stick you, or, you drop them. Well, everything with the Israeli is built in. So when you open this package, nothing falls out, nothing is trying to get away from you. You just put it on, you apply direct pressure, focus pressure, and then it ties it, you have the ability to tie it off without using any tape or anything extra.
And when should we use a tourniquet, and how long can a tourniquet stay on before you risk losing that limb?
When to use a tourniquet is when you have bleeding that is uncontrolled by either focused or direct pressure, and they really don't teach pressure points or advocate elevating the wounds anymore because it just took too much time. So pretty much if you can feel a pulse through the bandage, or it's gushing in bright red and you can't control it, you then need to put on a tourniquet if it's on an extremity.
And then do you have a favorite out of the different tourniquets that are out there? I guess the combat application tourniquet's the one that the military uses, but there's other good tourniquets out there like the TK4 and the SWAT-T.
Yes, as you said, all three of those are very popular. Obviously the CAT, or the combat application tourniquet, or the combat applied tourniquet is very popular with the military, and even the military has gone through different generations of the tourniquets as well. But my favorite, and the one that I sell the most of, is either the TK4 or the quick tourniquet, but the SWAT-T is my favorite only because it's very simple, it's much cheaper than most tourniquets, and not because it doesn't work or not because it's inferior. It's just, there's not as many moving parts, and it works very well. It's much wider than the CAT or some of the other tourniquets on the market, and it packages a lot better. And again, expense is everything for everybody. Whether they're buying guns or ammo or anything else like that, expense does boil down to to what it is. And the SWAT-T just seems to work well. It was actually invented by an Air Force pararescueman, so people that know what they're talking about.
Now, one of the largest targets on your body is your lungs. What happens if you're shot in the chest or you get a deep puncture wound in one of your lungs?
Well, like a puncture or a bullet wound or some kind of penetrating trauma to the chest cavity, obviously you're going to have an interruption in your ability to breathe effectively. And the first thing that you need to do is cover that wound with some type of plastic, whether it's a covering from a bandage or even a Ziploc bag or something that you can put over that wound that will not allow air to suck into it. But you're going to have a very hard time breathing almost immediately, and it's one of those things. If you're the one treating that patient, you have to act very quickly.
And what do you think about the Asherman chest seal? Do you like those?
The Asherman chest seal is good. There's many on the market, and again, the Asherman chest seal is probably one of the original modern day chest seals. That one was invented by some Navy personnel. And the one thing good about the Asherman is that it's not as expensive as some of the others. Works very well, and it does have a built-in flutter valve that does release any excess pressure. So the Asherman's right up there with one of those ones that I put in my kits that it just works. There's not a lot of things that you can screw up with the Asherman.
And how hard is it to learn basic suturing? And is there a difference in silk sutures for humans and those marked only for veterinarians?
Basic suturing classes are one of the classes that I actually teach, and it's one of those things that where it's not hard, but it's just like anything else. The first time you do it, it's ugly and it looks terrible, and about the time you've done 10 to 20 sutures, you feel a lot more comfortable, and by the time you've done 50 sutures, you start feeling really comfortable. So what we use is pig's feet. We actually put incisions in them. We bring in experts in the field. By no means am I an expert in suturing. I've learned how. I bring in nurse practitioners and people who do it for a living, and we teach them that. But it's not hard. It's just practice. And the veterinarian versus human sutures, there's no difference. They're actually made by the same company. And real quick with sutures, there's silk and there's nylon. Silk is stronger, but it's very slippery. So if you are not good at suturing, I would actually tell people to use nylon. sutures because as you're tying them, they don't slip as easy, especially if you're not used to suturing and you're kind of a novice at it. The nylon is much easier to tie than the silk, but there's no difference between human silk or veterinary silk or, the same for nylon or any other sutures. They're made by the same company.
And what about Quick Clot? Can you tell us how that works?
Sure. Quick Clot, the actual Quick Clot brand is, it's a hydrostarch, which simply means it's a starch product, like a sugar product. And what it does is it pulls the fluid out of the blood and just leaves the platelets. So it pulls the red blood cells, the white blood cells, the liquid or the plasma out of the blood, and it just leaves platelets, which the platelets are what we want. That is blood clots. So it puts them right where we want them, and, it just works very well, and it works almost instantly on application. There's not, and the older versions did burn a little bit. The new ones do not burn anymore.
And did they have a different chemical compound, the ones that would burn?
It was just that they were granular, and they were this powder. It almost looked like sawdust. And the original ones you would pour in there, the patient would yell and scream and say, "Oh my gosh, it's so hot." It did still work, but the problem with the granular, one, it got hot, and two, the surgeons hated it because they had to go in and find each and every little granular and pull it out.
And then Celox still makes the granules, and I've heard stories of the granules, microscopic granules, getting in the bloodstream and going to the heart and causing a blood clot. Is there any truth to that? Is that really possible?
Well, I mean, it's very plausible, and that's probably why a lot of these other companies have got away from the granular so much, because the thing you're worried about is a stroke to the brain, a heart attack, or a myocardial infarction to the heart, or even a blood clot to the lung, which is called a pulmonary embolus. And any of those would obviously make your situation that you're using Quick Clot or that type of product, your day's about to get much worse, and if it wasn't bad already. So I don't sell granular anymore. I only sell either the impregnated gauze or the Quick Clot first response sponge.
And then, like you said, the impregnated gauze also, that's going to be the new formula that's not going to burn the skin if it's left on too long.
That is correct. Both the Quick Clot first response sponge or any other type of impregnated sponges, such as Combat Gauze or some of the other products on the market, they do not burn.
Now, if you could teach someone only 3 medical skills, and obviously skills that they probably don't just know from well, I guess we don't really have any medical skills at all, most of us. We can put on a Band-Aid.
Right, yeah, we can do a Band-Aid.
And maybe extract a splinter. But that's about the extent of most of our medical skills. So what would be the 3 skills that you would teach folks?
The 3 main skills is how to open an airway effectively on a patient, whether they're unconscious, whether they have bleeding in the airway, meaning their mouth or their nose. How to deal with that is a very, very important skill, because when you can't breathe, none of those other toys really matter. If you can't breathe, you got about 3 minutes to figure it out. So, kind of like, what you were talking about earlier, people who prepare for all this other stuff to happen, if you can't control an airway, it really doesn't matter. The second skill is to learn effective CPR. There's plenty of courses out there that really teach you the down and dirty guts of it, where they've made it simpler, they've made it easier. They want people to do good, consistent chest compressions, not really worrying about the mouth-to-mouth or ventilations for the first couple minutes. The quicker you do CPR, the better it works. And it's, the studies have proven over and over that the quicker you start CPR, a better chance of them getting better. And the third one would be bleeding control. If you can do those 3 items, you're going to save a life. With bleeding control, it's obviously direct pressure, and then focused direct pressure. And if it's an extremity, application of a tourniquet. If it's a non-extremity, a Quick Clot or a hemostatic agent. And you can use Quick Clot or other hemostatics on a limb if the tourniquet is not working, or you can't get it, maybe it's around a joint or something like that. But, airway control, CPR, and bleeding control would be the top 3 I would teach most people.
And under normal conditions, I think it's always going to be better for folks to try to get professional medical attention. But I got a letter from a reader a few weeks ago. He's a first responder in New York, and he says that they would be totally overwhelmed in the event of a natural or man-made disaster. Do you think that's typical of emergency services around the country?
I actually do, sir. I'm also a advanced level emergency manager, so I do a lot of that infrastructure planning and reaction to those type of events. And I would definitely agree that if you had that kind of really bad man-made or natural disaster, you start looking at, where, say, all your ambulances are broken for whatever reason, or your hospitals are no longer available. So yes, I would agree that as soon as those infrastructure, EMS, police, fire, those public safety people get overwhelmed, you are kind of on your own, and for the time until it gets better.
Yeah, and especially we've had so many cities now that have had to make huge budget cuts because of the economy and different things, and a lot of services are already operating at about 90% capacity, or if you've got a hospital that's 85% full, then they can really only take in another 15% on top of their normal average day-to-day stress that they have to deal with. So in the event of a large scale natural disaster, folks are really going to be on their own, aren't they?
Yeah, and what you're talking about is what the government or what hospital people plan for is like a surge capacity. How far can they go over that 100% mark? If you have 100 beds in a hospital and you have 90 or 85, like you said, how far can we push over that 100 and be able to handle it? And to be honest with you, most hospitals, once they hit the 10% over their over their max, that's about their surge. So if you have a 1,000-bed hospital, you're only talking about maybe 100 extra patients, and they're just up to, they're so far, off the chart that they don't know what to do. I mean, look at Superstorm Sandy. I mean, when you're evacuating neonatal intensive care babies down stairwells, that can't be a good sign of a good plan that was in place.
No, that doesn't sound like a good plan at all. Now, let's say we just woke somebody up out there that's listening to the show, and they've got $100 in their pocket, and they want to spend that to get more medically prepared than they are right now. What can they find on PriorityMedicalTraining.com to best spend that $100?
Well, if they had $100, they came to my website, I would tell them to, take a look at my products page. I have medical kits that are between $50 and $60 to start off with that have quick clot, have a SWAT-T tourniquet, have Israeli bandage, EMT shears, and a space blanket, all in one small package, easy to put in a car or a pack or a range bag or wherever they want it. I even have people that buy it for their wife's car and put it in the glove compartment or, the center console. For $100, they could get two of them. And, spread out that preparation where, again, you just never know when it's going to happen. And also, if they had the $100, they said, hey, I have some stuff at my house. I also sell almost all of my larger items like the quick clots and the tourniquets separately because, some people, they have the $100, they go, I have a little bag. I just want to add the good stuff to it or some extra stuff. So I make it so you don't have to spend all your money. Spend the part that you think is important because everybody's level of comfort is different.
And, of course, we're going to have links to your website in today's show notes. But for the folks that might be listening on iTunes, Stitcher, or YouTube, can you tell them where they can find your site?
Sure, of course. Thank you. It's PriorityMedicalTraining.com, and you'll see education pages and products pages and some Ravencrest tactical knives pages. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook, of course, Instagram. Most of you can just search Priority Medical Training, and you'll find us. On Twitter, we're PMT Ops, PMT OPS, PMT Operations. All my contact information is readily available, and I have no problem picking up the phone and calling you at any time and getting back to you. I really try to answer questions as quick as I can to kind of give people the information that they need.
Richard, thanks again for taking time to come on the show.
All right, thank you so much, and hope you have a good day.
Hey Preppers and Patriots, American Meltdown, the long-awaited sequel to American Exit Strategy, is now available in Kindle and paperback. In American Meltdown, Book 2 of the Economic Collapse Chronicles, the new president, Anthony Howe, signs an executive order banning all semi-automatic weapons. Matt, Adam, and Wesley Baer begin training with their local militia for the battle that is coming. Within weeks of the inauguration, the $700 trillion derivatives bubble pops when rates on U.S. debt skyrocket. The derivatives crisis is the final nail in the coffin of the banking system and the death of the fiat currency system in America. With the dollar gone, commerce comes to a screeching halt. While times prove to be tough for all, survival favors the prepared. Get your Kindle or paperback copy of American Meltdown, Book 2 of the Economic Collapse Chronicles on Amazon today.